And so here we are with the second video in the series of the GRAIL and the Holy SEPHIROTH. You'll notice I have it spelled correctly now. We will now reveal the GRAIL correlatives to the individual Sephira in Thoth's 13 Sephira tree of life. This information, which we list below, follows this format. Name of Sephira, the quality of Sephira, the essence of Sephira, the GRAIL archetype of the Sephira, the Arthurian GRAIL character or energy for that Sephira. With the exception of the two additional Sephira Thoth has added to this model over the standard format, the name and qualities of the Sephira given here are traditional. In the two Sephira Thoth has added, the quality and essence are combined in one expression. Of course, this begs a real chart of some kind, and that's not something I can really do at this time. Whoops. So we're just going to go for it the way it is. Now the first is the one that Thoth has given us. It's above the Kether, and he calls it the Tau Tak Awi. Awi. It really does sound like Awi. A-I-U. T-A-U-K-A. Let me do that again. T-A-U-T-A-K-A-I-U. This is the creation star, the lily, priestess, GRAIL queen, Guinevere. Kether, crown, completion of the great work, GRAIL cup, Narada, great primordial being working through Merlin. Chokmah, wisdom, devotion, the Eucharist host, the Eucharist sacrament, being provided with all one can eat in a feast fit for a king. Bina, understanding, silence, GRAIL chapel, any of the chapels appearing in Arthurian legend. Dath, abyss, sacred nothing, rose, Lancelot or Galahad. Chesed, Mercury, obedience, swan, lady of the lake. Gebrua, judgment, severity and strength, energy and courage, GRAIL knight or sword and scabbard. Gwain. Sephiroth, beauty and harmony, devotion to the great work, GRAIL maiden or well, maidens of the well. Netzach, victory and eternity, unselfishness, solar facilitator or wizard, Merlin and Taliesin. Hod, splendor, glory, and reverberation, honor and truth, unicorn, the Christ in nature. Yesod, foundation, independence, GRAIL king or stone, King Arthur. Malkuth, kingdom discrimination, GRAIL castle and kingdom, Camelot and or the wasteland. Hunaman, this is the one that Thoth adds after Malkuth. Shamanic inner world, Avalonic realm, the other world. In the mention of the GRAIL, images of the characters of the GRAIL legends are immediately summoned in the Western psyche. It is important, however, to go beyond the GRAIL characters in and of themselves as GRAIL symbols and see their association and interrelationship with the primary GRAIL archetypes, which appear in various ways in the diverse GRAIL symbologies that find their way into the Arthurian legends. We have given the essence of these archetypes that appear above in association with the Sephira below. It is in the quest we find the heart of the GRAIL mythos as a true sacred mystery, that these archetypes must be revealed from within. Thus we present to you an expanded look at the archetypes that were listed above, which fall into the category to help catalyze this process for your soul. And so we begin with the lily, the divine feminine within, signifying the triplicity of the Shekinah spirit, both in greater and lesser realms of self. The GRAIL cup chalice is the merging of spiritualized mind and heart, creating a transformative path for the vital primal earth energy to become the vehicle for true manifestation of spirit in matter. The Eucharist host, the miracle of redemption as a symbol for the 7 miracles of light. The GRAIL chapel, the inner work of the soul. The rose, the unfolding of the heart as a sacred labyrinth of compassion. Each petal reaching toward the sun reveals another layer within the deep mystery of eternal love. The swan, the sacred part of self that is pure and undefiled. It is spirit gliding upon the lake of mortality, and yet never sinking into it. Often this is the part of self that is wounded by the ignorance and fears of the lesser self, and yet it will always ultimately be restored, for its purity is grace personified and cannot be defiled in the eyes of God. The sword, scabbard, the sword, word, logos of divine light and life, light and law, cuts through the lesser manifestation and restores spiritual principle to the throne of the world, the seat of divine fire in the chakras and the 9 energy body format of the human being. The scabbard sheathes and protects the power, and also protects the world from the severity of the power. I might say that I feel right now we're very much in touch on the planet as a planetary whole with the sword and the scabbard. I feel that we're going through at this time, this revolution right here. Again, the sword, the word, logos of divine light and law, cuts through the lesser manifestation and restores spiritual principle to the throne of the world, the seat of divine fire in the chakras and in the 9 energy body format of the human being. The scabbard sheathes and protects the power, and also protects the world from the severity of the power. Well, of course, one cannot help in 2016, especially November 11th of 2016, looking at all that has gone by in these last months and these last 2 years, and is continuing to unveil itself. It could be seen as a very scary time, but I truly believe that we are in this focus right now. I'm being prompted, in fact, by Thoth to say this. And as such, we must have faith, but a faith that comes from a different perspective, a higher platform. It's one thing to have faith trotting along in misery and anguish down on the flatlands. Everything's flat, flat, flat. And you have faith. You have faith that there's something else. There's got to be somewhere. Oh, yes, 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 please. There's something else. I have faith. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what's helped humanity get through the slings and arrows for a long, long time. However, that is the ancestral faith. And it proceeds out of the generation before it. So it doesn't really become of higher elevation. Now, I'm not speaking here of the beautiful mysteries of the Mayan and the Hopi, and before the Mayan went downhill, and the Hopi and all of these beings. I mean, their ancestors, and they promoted the bloodline, the red path, but they did so at a very, very high octave of that red path, and it incorporated dimensions of awareness that we're not incorporating in our blood path. I say the Western blood path is not incorporating those. And to a large extent, many of the Eastern realms are not incorporating it now either. That's why the indigenous are coming forth and saying, look, take a look here. Go back and look at what was really in the original teachings and writings. They're not trying to pull us back into the past. They're trying to give us a platform from the past that is more accurate for our springboarding into the future. And so back to what I was saying, though, the faith that we've operated in before, or many of us have, is, on the flatlands. Praying for something because surely there must be something better. So you've got to have faith or you're just going to want to, blow your brains out. So you've got to have faith. So you have faith. Well, now we're reaching a pinnacle where we're really being called to a new level of faith. And actually, Thoth calls it not faith, but knowing. But I'm going to stick with the word faith for a while because I don't think I can say I'm not totally in the knowing, and I'm certain most people aren't. So let's say there's a little bridge here, the bridge between faith and knowing, and I'm going to call it greater faith. So we're in this period where we're being called to greater faith, not more dedicated faith, but an expanded faith and seeing it from a higher level. Now we're up in the foothills and we're getting close to the mountaintop. And we can look down, maybe we're not at the mountaintop, but we can look down and we can see more, on a clear day. You can see it. And we say, I have faith now, not because I'm groveling for it, but because I have an understanding to some degree, of the universal law that perpetuates what I'm seeking, that faith commands. So that's where we are now. That's what I feel and I'm being guided, actually more than feel. I'm being guided to state from Thoth here. It's kind of hard to separate the two sometimes because they're all just kind of flowing together. And perhaps I shouldn't try to do so. So that's my take on the sword and the scabbard. So let's go to the next one. The well. The depths of the soul, the purifying waters of spirit, issuing forth from the depths of eternal being. The font of the divine feminine, qualities of compassion, unconditional love, and forgiveness. Now, this is what we're being called upon right now to utilize as well. Because I'm speaking, when I say we, I'm talking about the global all, and especially in the United States right now, we're really angry. We've been cheated. We've been lied to. Oh, my goodness, lions and tigers, oh my. And we have been, but we have been for a long time. But most of us were so asleep and wanted to be asleep because it was better that way that we really didn't see it. So all of a sudden, it's all coming up in our face. It was there all along. It's been accumulative, of course, but it was there. And so now all the horrors are in front of us. And we want to smack somebody. We really do. I've had a moment or two like that myself during this whole campaign thing in when Bernie was cheated out of the election and all of that. I've had my moments, but this is what this is talking about here: the well, the depths of the soul, the purifying waters of spirit issuing forth from the depths of eternal being, the font of the divine feminine qualities of compassion, unconditional love, and forgiveness. Now, we really wanted a feminine archetype, living, breathing, to guide us. We don't have that at this time. And that's not any slight on Jill Stein. I think she's a beautiful person. But I would not call her a personification of the divine feminine archetype that I'm speaking of. She's more of a woman who has great integrity, knowledge, wisdom, and love, but she's focusing it in a more in a way that can speak to the masculine vibration. And it's necessary, very necessary. Now, Bernie, on the other hand, actually, I feel has more of the divine feminine presence there, but he's not in the feminine body. And that restricts him as to how far he can go with using that loving kindness directive. I'm not saying men can't be loving and kind. I don't mean that, but we're talking about really deep archetypal presence. That means something that the masses can feel in the heart. And where they felt it the most was in Bernie. And he was a guy, but is a guy. Sure. I'm sure he still is. Anyway, so anyway, as I was saying, we really don't have what we're craving right now. And all the women that voted for Hillary wanted so badly was that feminine archetype to lead us, And they didn't recognize that they actually had it to a large degree in Bernie. But, they wanted to put a skirt on him. And so that didn't happen. And I'm sure there are many reasons why Bernie did not become the president, none of which had anything to do, I believe, with any of his shortcomings. We all have shortcomings, and Bernie does too, but I don't think that was the issue. It was much more than that, which we won't go into here. But the point is, we didn't get it. And if we had identified, as I'm speaking the global we here, especially in the United States, that Bernie was representing to a very high degree the divine feminine archetype for our nation, I think that would have made a huge difference in, of course, many people followed him anyway, but I think it would have made a huge difference vibrationally. I don't think it would have cut through the thickness of the crust that was set against him from eons of archonic rule on the planet. But everything has something good come out of it. And for Bernie and for us, is that Bernie is in a position now to deal with Trump. Now, I don't want to get off of this, but it really relates to this, okay? So just hang with me for just a few minutes. Trump actually likes Bernie as much as Trump can, focus on liking. I think that he does. And Bernie is seeing that advantage. If you read his current statement that he made, it was very carefully worded. I won't go on with this, but I just think that had Bernie become president, he would have been thrown into a lion's cage. He would have been gobbled up and torn limb for limb. He would not have succumbed to their demands, not on that level, but he would have been chewed up and spit out. Probably no longer be with us on this plane. So he is in a position now with Trump to possibly do a great deal of good. Whether Trump becomes his friend or foe, probably he'll be a little of both. So that's that. I don't want to get off on that, but it's important because you see this thing of the depth of the soul and the well. If we see the sword in the scabbard and the well coming together, we have the whole pronouncement of what's going on the planet right now. And the fact that we didn't get our divine feminine archetype in a leadership position in the most powerful country in the world, a true divine feminine archetype. I mean, Hillary was about as far from it as you could get. I mean, Hercules would have been better. But if you see this patterning, we're still in need of the divine feminine archetype. But where are we going to find it, folks? I mean, you can all answer this question for me. Not outside of ourselves, not in a leader, but inside. And this speaks to men too. The divine feminine, balancing the divine feminine with the divine masculine, and finding that feminine archetype wisdom and compassion from the well, the unconditional love, compassion within ourselves that is so pronounced. It literally calls upon the SEPHIROTH, which is a sphere of consciousness. I don't know, consciousness might not be the right word. Intelligence. You can have Thoth says there can be intelligence without consciousness. Consciousness is reflective. And there can be, the universe is intelligent, but in the all sense of the word, it's not reflective. It has reflective aspects to it, and that's the Akasha, which is built up and created by souls who are reflective. So, but I'm talking about the whole system. So the SEPHIROTH, the spheres of the SEPHIROTH are intelligence, divine intelligence, operating in specific modalities. They are systemic in their nature. So, right now on the planet, it's really, really important for us to understand that we are on divine protection and a simulation of divine fire by the scabbard, the sword in the scabbard, which is not confrontational, it's not vengeful, it's not lethal, but it is absolute light and law that cannot be denied, cannot be put aside. And we are also within the level of the well Sephirah, which holds the divine archetype of femininity in its qualities of compassion, unconditional love, and forgiveness. So we need to forgive what we think we have to forgive, which is the system, the people out there that did this to us. But of course, when we really, really forgive, who are we really needing to forgive? Ourselves. Because we, as human beings, all together, all of us, created this reality that we find ourselves caged within. And now the cage is breaking open. And we may not like the person that's breaking it open for us. And there may be a lot of stuff going on that's going to be not fun and not fair and not just. But it's the process of taking it apart. And all that stuff, all those splinters have to fly in our face while it's being taken apart. But if we can bring together the sword and the well, the knight and the knightess, as the Templars called it, the Grande Dame, we can bring those two together as our archetypes. We can forge the path with much more ease and grace. There's just no question in my mind that this can happen through this means. So I pause here to say that because I think it's a really, really important message across from the past, from this that I'm reading that came from 1998 now to 2016. So, okay, I'm going to continue with the reading. The solar facilitator wizard, the catalyst for alchemical processes, that which quickens and then defines the path to the absolute. The unicorn, the pure form or first unviolet matter, which is undefiled by, I think it should be inviolate matter, which is undefiled by mortal experience, the GRAIL elixir of redemption that quenches the thirst of the questing night. The stone, the foundation, the authority, the uncompromising and enduring aspect of human recognition of the true God self within a godness which just is and always will be. The GRAIL castle, the outer work of the spiritualized will. The Avalonic realm, the dreamtime field of shamanic power. Simply meditating on these qualities of the divine self will in of itself prove most fruitful, and we encourage the true GRAIL consciousness seeker to do so. However, there is much more that can be accomplished when this type of endeavor is combined with what is traditionally called path work in Kabbalistic circles. There is a great deal of information already available on the more traditional representations of the Sephirah and resultant interconnected paths, so we will be focusing on Thoth's perspective on these dynamics. We do suggest, however, a thorough read of Gareth Knight's book entitled A Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism for anyone interested in pursuing the more traditional paths as well. So here again, we're going to conclude this episode of the GRAIL and the Holy Sephiroth. So next time we're going to go into something, well, at least partly something that is from a Star Lotus manual that I wrote way back in the 80s, I imagine. This was before Crestone, before Simeon, and all of that in my life. And we'll go into that. That will be video 3. So for now, Thank you for listening.